Hello, Mr. Benson here. So today, guys, we're going to be talking about citing evidence, a little bit of close reading within English language arts, okay? So this PowerPoint is going to serve as your guide to what we expect of you guys as you cite evidence and as you guys read and you annotate and you provide us answers using text-based evidence. So that being said, I'm going to be down here in this little corner right here, and so it's important that as you go through it, you follow along with me, and hopefully this gives you a chance to see a teacher's face and follow along with me as I walk through all of these things that we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so our focus standards for today is we're going to focus on citing several pieces of textual evidence from the text to support analysis of what the text says explicitly, as well as inferences drawn from the text. We're also going to be looking at demonstrating command of the conventions of standard English, capitalization, punctuation, and spelling when writing. More specifically, we're going to be looking at using quotation marks correctly. Your success criteria for today is that you're going to be able to cite several pieces of text-based evidence to support an analysis of an informational text. You're going to use quotation marks correctly to send a clear message to your audience. Okay, so on this slide, you're going to see what we call evidence-based terms. You're going to use these terms to help you cite evidence correctly from a text, okay? So we have on page blank, it said, the author wrote, for instance, according to the text, in the blank stanza, from the reading I know that, based on what I read, for example, the graphic showed, based on the visual clues in the illustration. So these are going to be like your sentence starters on the sentence where you're ready to cite evidence. You're going to use one of these at the beginning of your sentence. So for example, you might say on page 20, it said, Jill was standing in her classroom, okay? Or the author wrote, her face shone like a light, okay? It just depends on what you're citing evidence for. The key is that you want to make sure you use this at the beginning of your sentence before you use your quotation marks. Okay. We use quotation marks because they allow you to use another person's words in your writing. That's important because you don't want to take credit for something that you didn't write. When you use another person's words in your writing, it is called a direct quote. A direct quotation generally begins with a capital letter. You're going to place the punctuation inside of the closing quotation mark, okay? So remember, punctuation before quotation. You can kind of use that to help you remember how to format your quotation marks correctly. Here's an example for you. Mrs. Smith said, the neighbor's dog ran into the street. So I just want you to notice, here's my opening quotation mark, and right here I start with a capital letter. Okay, so make sure you notice that. And then the punctuation inside the closing quotation mark. So here I've got the end of my quote, there's the end of my punctuation, my end punctuation, and here's my closing quotation mark. So it's really important that you know how to format those correctly. We have what's called a broken quotation. When you have that, the quote is divided by the identification of the speaker. The second part of the quotation is going to begin with a lowercase letter. So here's an example. My dear Mrs. Smith exclaimed, that is a lovely tie. So here's the second part of my quotation, and notice that that is a lowercase letter. Okay. Direct quotes have to be set off from the rest of the sentence by a comma, an exclamation point, or a question mark, not a period. Okay, so look at your examples here. I like language arts the best, Casey said, so I use a comma here instead of a period. Is Mrs. Walters nice? I've got a question mark. I'll say she is. I have an exclamation point here. Okay, so go and watch through these rules, go through these rules, and check your quotation marks. Make sure you're formatting those things correctly.